You're listening to Puma Podcast.
Filipino documentary Food Delivery Fresh from the West Philippine Sea premiered at Doc Edge, an Oscar qualifying international documentary festival in New Zealand this July. It is coming home with the Tides of Change Award. But it wasn't all that smooth sailing for the film, which covers the plight of fishermen and maritime service personnel in disputed waters. Before its international premiere, it was taken off the lineup for Pure Gold's Cine Panalo Festival in Manila for unclear reasons. In Auckland, the Chinese consulate had appealed to film festival organizers to censor the film. This is Regine Cabato for Teka Teka News, powered by Puma Podcast. Today we're joined by food delivery director, Baby Ruth Villarama. Direct, congratulations on your festival run and award. Could you tell us how it went? And for those unfamiliar with the film, maybe you could give us a recap of what the story is.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, Doc Edge has been successful. We're very grateful that the festival took on the film despite the drama that it had experienced earlier this year. That it was pulled out from a local festival due to external pressure or external factor, as they say it. So we're just very grateful, and they told us that 1,500 films submitted into the festival. It's the biggest documentary film festival in the Asia Pacific, and they programmed 33 films. And then out of that, 10 films became part of the main competition, and we're one of the 10 films. So to win an award is already a big feat and to be recognized. So yeah, parang there's a quiet vindication internally, but we're just happy that we can offer some good news you know to our fellow Filipinos back home.
That's great to hear. On the part of the crew, is there an understanding or a belief that the attempted censorship in New Zealand is related to the censorship that went on in the Cinepanalo Festival?
Yeah, actually, what happened in New Zealand somehow gave us the clarity that we were looking for when there was no explanation given, more than that, due to external factor. So when Doc Edge released the email of the Chinese consulate to them, in in the spirit of transparency and fairness, so it gave us like, okay, so maybe this is what happened. This is what happened, yeah, last March. So parang naging mas clear siya.
Okay. And maybe for people who are not familiar with how China works in terms of its soft power, this is something that doesn't just happen in the Philippines, or in New Zealand for that case, but it also happens in other countries with other that may have groups or other issues that are not aligned with China's interests. There is a kind of attempt or soft power flexing on the part of China's consulates or embassies abroad, no? And I wanted to ask you, direct baby Ruth, what would your comment be on the idea that China is able to censor a film in a country that is not its own?
It makes me wonder who truly runs the Philippines at this point. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. It's either you are pro Filipinos, or you are, either not pro China, but pro yourself, like pro self interest. And if there's a level of self censorship happening, you gotta ask yourself, like, kudos to China, because they exactly know what they want. They're here for the long game. They're gonna get Taiwan within this generation, and they want our exclusive economic zone. I mean, that's a clear stand from them. So the question is, what is our stand as a country? We've had different presidents expressing different policies, different flashpoints of political standpoints. So, you know, we are in this situation because of our own decisions and our own historical choosing. So, the actually the ball is not in China's hand. It's in our hand. So, and this is soft power flexing. So I don't know anything about warfare or whatever, like military warfare. Yeah, but what I know is to tell stories and soft power in the way that to create awareness and to open the minds of fellow Filipinos. So we made this film actually for us.
Mhm. Has the government at all extended any support to you with regard to uh, the film?
When we were producing it, of course, none except for the permits that we requested, and it took us months to even get one. And it's not even a permit that allowed us to freely roam around. So there were a lot of prohibitions. There were a lot of rules. So yeah, so a lot of limitations in that sense. But then when this exploded after New Zealand happened, there's a conservative amount of express support.
Mhm.
Politicians making pronouncements that this film should be supported even though they haven't seen it. Yeah, some congressmen expressing that this film should be screened in schools and different platforms, which we support. And of course, after that, we would call upon them, reach out to their chief of staff, and request for a meeting so that we can figure out how they can help us, tangibly to really bring this film to their communities. So there are little efforts. I'm not saying that there's none, but for us, we just have to be grateful na lang for whatever support they're giving. Hopefully, it grows.
Yeah. What about the Coast Guard and military? I understand that you've also gotten to cover them, right? As part of the service personnel in the film.
Hmm. In terms of support, you
Um,
mean?
Support and also what the cooperation was like when you were filming them for the documentary.
It was more of a jibe mission. That's their term for it, because basically we don't really want to create any official collaboration. We just want to observe how they do it, like their regular operations. So it just so happened that yeah, there's a scheduled RORE mission around that time, and we had to wait for it. So we had to wait for the weather to be cleared. We had to wait for the right timing because it's a secret mission. So we're like unofficially part of that mission. We couldn't be part of that, but of course, there's clearance from different sectors within their ranks. So we were just observing their operations in yeah, delivering this sustenance to soldiers assigned in these very very remote postings.
Mhm. And what were your observations, your takeaways from being able to embed on a Philippine mission out in West Philippine Sea?
The most glaring observation that I can share is that there is a huge lack of facilities and infrastructures and um like governing support. Like their meals would cost 30 pesos per meal, like I don't know, like 100 pesos per day. And we had to experience that so we can really understand, close to our gut, how big a gap of what kind of yeah, protection that our government is giving to our military personnels, our coast guard. And it's difficult, like life is really difficult for them, but despite that they remain committed to their duty, and they have no choice because that's the pact that they agreed with, that's the thing that they sign on. And of course the fisher folk, that's one thing that really struck us the most, because they are the true guardians of the West Philippine Sea, and because of them we're able to enjoy this, various seafoods, this sashimi that we eat in hotels and restaurants. But they are uh, stuck in this debt cycle, because whenever they go out there at sea, they invest a lot in their payos. That's like the area where they breed their fish, and then up to a certain point they have to go back to harvest them. By the time they go back to supposedly harvest them, Chinese coast guards have already destroyed their fishing ground, so there's nothing left for them, and it really frustrates them so much. And then of course they are being chased every time they go out there in the West Philippine Sea. So clearly, the Chinese government really want to control that path of our EEZ, and yeah, take over some of our islands, especially Scarborough Shoal.
Mhm. One of the main characters I've read of the documentary is Arnel Satam, right? And Mang Arnel went viral a few years ago after his attempts to dodge the Chinese Coast Guard were reported on GMA News, if I'm not mistaken. So, could you tell us more about him, how you came to meet him as a character, and how he's doing now?
Yeah. Well, uh, before we came into the story, of course, we had to talk to different journalists who's been covering the issue for years. And Rafi Tima is one of the journalists we spoke to, and yeah, he openly shared the materials that he has on Arnel Satam, and then Jun Sabayton connected us to Arnel's family and the community there in Subic. So there's just so much stories to tell, and based on the based on the histories, like the news history of Arnel Satam, like politicians would congratulate him for his heroism. It's almost cinematic, no, the way his small boat is being chased by these two high powered Coast Guard vessels from China, and yet he really maneuvered it very well. So but after that, after it's been a year, he couldn't go inside the shoal anymore, and then he has a lot of health issues. Also, by the time he's growing depressed, and it's becoming harder and harder for him. So, his story doesn't really have a happy ending yet. So we decided, like, okay, let's continue your story and figure out how we can also help in our own way as independent storytellers, because we couldn't just move on to another character without concentrating on Ka Arnel, who started that fire because of that news report. We have to continue it and hopefully make sure that we don't stop until they're able to reclaim their payaws there in Scarborough.
Mhm. What was the dominant, I guess, sentiment among the fishermen when you were immersing with the community and everything? When I got to report on it also as a reporter previously for the Washington Post, and we got to meet a lot of the fishermen there. They're sobrang hirap i-reconcile ng kanilang frustration and their
Mhm.
despair, no? Kasi syempre there's a part na they know that they're um less than underdogs even, no? Lang resilience siya kanila that they know that they are not in the wrong, but of course they know that they need help. And I've heard that in different communities along the west coast, they will all have a varying degrees, no, of that kind of mix of resilience and
Yeah.
pagkapalaban and parang being closer to giving up and trying to find other ways to put food on the table. Some of them have been transitioning out of
Yeah.
fishing, for example.
True.
So, ikaw, Director Baby Ruth, how have you found the sentiment in the communities that you immersed with?
One of the things that we discovered are the wives of these fishermen. They're now slowly joining their husbands' voyages because they want to know the real score. And since it's been going on for years now, um, if our husbands are not able to figure this one out, then let's see how us women can help and can really fight this with our men, with our husbands. So they're learning the traditional way of fishing. And what's also sad to realize is that because our international waters are so are so conflicted, even commercial vessels, like our local commercial vessels, are entering the municipal water, which is really reserved for our women fisher folk, or like small scale fishing for communities. So nagkakaroon ng paglalaban ng resources, where in fact the bigger resources are out there. And yeah, and napapagod din sila kasi, I mean, resilience can only take you up to a point. But then sabi nga, pag nag-give up na kami, um, you know, of course, these people need to survive. But syempre, the one thing that's really holding them is really because this has been their way of life for hundreds of years. Their fathers were fishermen, their grandfathers were fishermen, their ancestors have a deep relationship with the sea, and that's very hard to let go because of uh you know this hiccup. We don't want to call it like a hopeless situation because
Yeah.
we used to fight back before. Based on my research, we would really, gun down Taiwanese, Vietnamese, Chinese. I don't know if you remember, like DOJ would present Chinese fisher folk in front of the media wearing a yellow shirt because they've been caught, illegal fishing in our own waters. We would shoot them. That's how brave we were. So my question is, what happened to us? And then, of course, my answer is, oh, because we were sold out by our own politicians under Duterte time. Like, who are the Chinese groom politicians that are running our country now? Uh, who are the politicians sponsored by the Chinese government? I mean, these are their champions. We produce Alice Go, and I'm sure there are several local officials that are sponsored by the Chinese government. So it's really deep, like it's invisible, but we're feeling it right now. And the obvious lang are the fisher folk being harassed. That's the obvious. But my film being pulled out from the festival and some cinemas are scared to screen it, it goes to show that the influence goes deeper than what we're seeing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really the long arm of China. And I think people should be more aware of how much it's able to flex. Actually, it's both its soft and hard power.
No, I feel like sooner or later they think that they have the upper hand. Like this Filipinos who are conniving with them, or maybe not conniving, but maybe innocently partnering with them for business collaboration. Ganun naman yun eh. Very innocent yung mga trade
Mm.
partnership. But sooner or later, yeah, they'll lose that grip, if they don't choose the Philippines. Because wala, I mean, this is our land. We only have one home,
Yeah,
and there's no way we're gonna give this up. There's no way, not within my generation. At least I'll try to fight. So I hope, yeah, my fellow Gen X, YZ,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
because I don't want the next generation to inherit this nightmare. Like, until manageable pa siya, let's use whatever soft power we have to stand against bullying, to stand against this
Absolutely.
flexing that they're doing.
Yeah. Well, direct. The thing is, but generally Filipinos are all the surveys show that they are pro West Philippine Sea, that they are distrustful of China. It's the least trusted country, according to to surveys. But there seems to be a cognitive dissonance in Filipinos because while Filipinos are pro West Philippine Sea, they tend to sometimes still vote for pro China politicians. And they don't seem, or a subset of the population, not everyone, but some people don't seem to be able to make the connection between pro China politicians and what is going on in West Philippine Sea. And for you as a storyteller, as a journalist, have you been able to observe the same thing? And how would you explain or reconcile this for that audience?
I'll make an attempt. I just think that truth is being weaponized against us, using popular culture, like simple things like Shopee, Lazada, Chinese, made in China. All these luxury bags that you can get for a much less when you buy it from that country. So there's this sort of, yeah, cognitive influencing. in that manner. And of course, when you think about that, and of course, like, yeah, the things that we see in TikTok and Facebook, they like to divide opinions of people, like the trolls that they've been paying to really aggravate the situations and polarize the opinions of people. So the real truth tellers, like the journalists who are really digging the facts, are being trolled. As a matter of fact, my Facebook was blocked since June. I recently just got it, but I'm afraid to use it anymore, or I'm just tired, or not do not have the time
Mhm.
to revisit it. But yeah, they've blocked it for more than a month. So yeah, they
Because of
just
mass reporting?
mass reporting, and like, I'm not following community standards, and I'm spreading misinformation. But in fact, I'm just spreading my food photos and travels.
Okay. Okay. I was
So
going to ask if
yeah,
you've come on the receiving end of harassment. So have any trolls been attacking you as well?
that's why my Facebook was blocked. I couldn't access it anymore. And even the studio that helped produce the film, like, they've been receiving negative, comments, and yeah, it's being trolled. So, and some of their scripts, like, if you're the kind of person who's easily swayed, and they tap to your cognitive belief, they speak your language, like, they know that they can retrofit their script, in expressing it in such a way that, oh, that's how I speak. And they know how to speak the language of the village, like, the masa language. So it's very invisible, but when you really observe it, it's there. And you can see, like, oh, wow, their point is like, yeah, West Philippine Sea, walis yung Chinese. Andun si Bea Alonso. Siya, proud na siya na Chinese siya. So, ganun na rin tayo. So, may mga ganong hint na, oh my God. So,
Oo, napansin ko rin 'yan, eh, na yung tono ng trolls ay defeatist.
mm,
'Di ba parang yun yung anggulo nila, eh, na talagang wala na tayong magagawa, ganyan, parang give up na lang,
oo.
parang
Kumbaga,
gano'n.
bibigyan ka talaga ng punto de vista na parang, oo nga, no, wala tayong laban sa China. Naku, patay, pagka inaway natin yan, paano yung si nanay, si tatay, nagtatrabaho sa Taiwan, sa China. Huwag na nating awayin. Sumunod na lang tayo. And the culture of Filipinos, we are peace-loving, and naa-abuse yung kultura ng pagiging masunurin natin. Because of our dear religion, we were trained to follow and respect the voice of God. So ang pagka-picture sa China ay maladambuhalang Diyos, monster, na pag yan ay hindi mo sinunod, or or hindi ka natakot, lagot ka. So may ganong fear na kinakast out there. And these are invisible fear. So ako, parang, teka lang, hindi ako matatakot kasi sandali, alam ko yung katotohanan at nakita ko siya ng dalawang mata namin. At may mga kasama akong, different cinematographers at yung mga reporters, consistent yung nire-report, especially the fisher folk, na sila talaga yung nahaharas. So nagka-cast sila ng invisible truth. Pero andito yung physical truth na pinaglalaban nila yan. So that's why ayaw nilang mapalabas yung film. Alam nila na the film will really be the nuclear bomb na
Hmm,
talagang bubukas sa kaisipan natin, sa awareness na, ito pala yun. Okay, oo nga. And it's not an abstract issue. Yun din yung isa pa na, ang layo-layo naman ng West Philippine Sea, parang malayo sa bituka natin yan. So, in fact, hindi. Yung mga kinakain natin, yung mga seafood natin, dyan ang gagaling. At pag na-control na yan ng ibang bayan, malamang tayo ang bibili doon sa sarili nating isda. So, sabi nga ng, di ba yung kasabihan na niluluto ka sa sarili mong mantika? Ito yon.
absolutely. As in magandang ano 'yan, magandang, turn of phrase talaga 'yan. And I think that a lot of people, lalo na sa mga malalayo sa West Coast,
Mm.
um baka kasi benta sa kanila yung gano'ng argument, eh, na malayo sa bituka. Pero actually hindi, eh. Even
Mm.
on top of the food production, for example, yung kuryente is also another upcoming na issue diyan dahil, um, pwedeng ma-explore for ano, for energy as an energy resource yung West Philippine Sea at hindi natin magawa-gawa because of China. And in the same way, baka in the future we will have to pay pa abroad and for electricity in our own country, no? So may mga ganong things na baka hindi pa alam ng Filipino public so much.
It seems so big kasi parang it's so complicated, I don't wanna get involved, magti-TikTok na lang ako, magsho-shop, magwi-window shopping na lang ako online. Kasi I mean, that's happiness, 'di ba, for us. Parang
Mhm.
ang hirap, parang it's just too complex when you think about it. But if you go down to its most, simple idea, kumbaga resources natin 'yan, eh. Kumbaga 'yan ang ano natin, plantation ng pagkain natin, plantation ng, yeah, sabi mo nga ng energy resources, ang daming mga ores diyan sa ilalim, and of course our biodiversity. Kumbaga there has to be a balance. Connected na rin diyan ang climate change because there've been reports na sinisira talaga nila yung ilalim. So, of course, pag na-stress yung mga isda, hindi na yan magma-migrate dito, lilipat na lang yan sa ibang lugar. And it will really shift the balance of things. The weather, of course, including the weather, the waves, and mas mahihirapan tayo, kumbaga.
Direct Baby Ruth, how would you articulate kung ano yung importance ng mga documentaries at yung um, uh, cost ng self-censorship na nangyayari ngayon? Because your documentary is just the latest in a trend of censorship of Filipino documentaries in the past year or couple of years, yung Lost Sabongeros, yung Alipato at Muog, and then now food delivery. Why do
Yeah,
you think that is? At bakit tayong umabot sa punto na 'to na parang nagiging regular itong pag-censorship sa mga docu?
kasi nga, dami ng takot, parang ano na lang, we're afraid to ruffle some feathers. Uh, and a lot of, parang it all boils down to pera-pera. Yun yung nagiging ano na parang, um, some of these platforms, of course, we have sponsors, para wag nating awayin, baka mag-back out yung mga sponsors. So, parang tayo, kung ano na lang yung sinunod, yung kung ano lang yung sabihin ng mga malalaking bosses, parang sumusunod na lang tayo. And it's very ironic because we are a democratic country. We're supposed to, enjoy this freedom of expression, and that's a healthy barometer of a democratic country. If your artists are able to express themselves, if people are given the chance to express themselves. Pero nangyayari, parang shallow democracy. Actually, hindi nga democracy, shallow democracy, because there's just a lot of noise being propagated out there, being allowed, to swim on the surface while they do their graft and corruption underneath. So parang inaaliw lang tayo. Mag-away-away kayo dyan, magtalo-talo kayo dyan. Pero ginagawa ng mga tao yung behind the scene, may ginagawa silang hindi maganda. Um, so that's where documentaries come in because we have the patience to really wait and see ano bang nangyayari, ano bang totoo. Especially observational documentary because you cannot script that. It's very unscripted, and you cannot dictate how the situation would flow. That's why cinema verite nga siya, observational. So we are just looking at things, recording things, uh, time, parang time capsule tayo ng mga events para ma-assess din natin, okay, so this is the situation we are in right now. Um, let's mirror it back to us. Like, how do we deal with this? Okay, meron tayong dumi. Where do we want to bring this country? So, that a documentary is one tool that can serve as a mirror to reflect and decide on the kind of future that we want for our sectors na nire-represent. So, tulad na lang nung ito, food delivery. So, West Philippine Sea, taon na to eh. 1997 when a group of foreign correspondents, local journalists, and few congressmen went there to plant the Philippine flag. That was May 1997. Nagsisimula na yung issue nito. Kaya nga pumunta sila doon to plant the Philippine flag. So 28 years later, what happened? Ba't hindi na makapasok doon at wala na? Hindi na talaga makapasok. So, who gave access and who sold us out? So, may mga decision na ginawa, and this documentary, will really kumbaga nag-backtrack kami, eh. Ano bang mga desisyon ang ginawa? Bakit tayo napunta sa sitwasyon na 'to? So, it's all here in this documentary.
That's great to hear. Kasi that kind of yung retrospective na unscripted, slow form of journalism, of docu, it really stands in contrast sa culture ngayon ng instant, short form, vertical, TikTok type videos na you just swipe past it and very instant yung consumption ng information, no? But of the form of a video documentary, uh, really forces you to sit down with the material and really absorb it and analyze it. That being said, po, uh, do you think that Filipinos still watch documentaries and still have an appetite for documentaries? Would they still have an appetite for food delivery in our very instant TikTokified video consumption culture?
Siguro ikuwento ko na lang yung na-witness ko mula nung screening ng Los Sabongeros na punong-puno ang gateway, yung pinakamalaki nilang cinemas, as in umapaw. Ako wala, audience lang ako nung time na yun pero halos sa hagdan na ako nakaupo. And then for food delivery, we had our premiere last July 27. Ito ata ang unang pagkakataon na nag-premiere ang isang documentary na apat na screenings back to back ang ginawa just to accommodate more than 1,000 people who came. Ang capacity lang ng biggest ng Rockwell is 315 seats. So kaya naging 4 screening siya because alam naman itaboy natin yung mga tao na magsiuwi po kayo hanggang 315 lang po yung pwede naming i-accommodate. So we had no choice but to open another cinema and then do another seating. Uh, and they stayed until midnight. Yung last screening 10:30 onwards. And they stayed. They waited for their turn to be able to watch the film. So, I guess sabi ko, baka curiosity lang kasi na-ban yung film. Alam mo naman, di ba yung culture na the more you ban something, the more you want to see it. So, parang nakatulong pa nga yung ginawa ng China. Kaya nagpapasalamat na rin ako na, okay, thank you for giving us that nudge or push. But then, when August 1 came, puno. August 2, puno. August 3, kailangan na ng dalawang screening. August 4, another 2. And then kanina, kakauwi lang namin, punong-puno. Ang dami ng hindi, kumbaga may mga hindi na na-accommodate talaga na sabi nila babalik na lang sila. And people as far as Cavite, Rizal, went to Rockwell to see the film. I think there's really a hunger for something more authentic. I guess Filipinos also want ano bang nangyayari because syempre ikaw as a Filipino gusto mo ring maunawaan and then concerned ka na rin na is this something I should worry about? And of course, there's another shift also in our culture lalo na when social media boomed is yung 'di ba yung I, me, myself or me, myself and I culture na very existential lang ang concern ng mga tao. It's all about themselves. So for young people to bring their parents, meron kami nakita na ano siya, as in 15-year-old girl, dinala niya yung mom niya na gusto daw niyang makita yung film kasi curious siya at gusto niyang i-vlog if it's something maybe baka she wants to be in, I don't know. May ganun na. So it's a genre that that's rising, slowly rising because we've been I don't know, hiding it for too long in our country or trying to control it or censor it. So I think its time has come.
It's very encouraging to hear that. And maybe for if our listeners were to take away something, no, it's important to note na these are warm bodies showing up to support uh this documentary on the West Philippine Sea that's been banned and that China wants to ban in a country that's not theirs. So these are warm bodies showing up to support the film in contrast to these anonymous voices na nagpapakalat ng Chinese propaganda online at nagsasabi na walang pakialam ang Pilipino sa West Philippine Sea, ang nagsasabi na mag-give up na lang tayo, etc. Itong whole defeatist stance. Hindi kasi natin alam how many of these voices online are even real people to begin with. um, and how many of them might be potentially, part of a foreign interference operation, no? So, huwag po tayong madala sa boses ng kung kani-kanino, and it's important, I think, to hear stories that come from uh, people who are real in flesh and blood, which food delivery captures. So, Direct, as a last question, maybe you could plug the film, tell us about the upcoming schedules, and if people want to organize a film screening near them, what do they have to do?
Yeah, well, food delivery will end its screening in Rockwell on August 8th, but Ayala just met us earlier today. It was a long meeting. They're offering us few cinemas starting August 13 until August 19. They're giving us a week. That's the commitment. And they're giving us the north side of the city, which is Trinoma, and Marikina, Feliz, and what else? Ayala 30th. We'll post the official announcement once it's out. We created a Facebook page for the film kasi na overwhelmed na rin yung studio where I work for, Voyage Studios. But we'll cross post it. The Facebook page is Food Delivery, fresh from the West Philippine Seas. Just follow it, click it on Instagram and Facebook. And then for those who want to organize block screenings, they could get in touch with that social media page, Food Delivery, fresh from the West Philippine Sea, or at Voyage Studios Facebook page. So
Okay,
yeah,
thank you so much, Direct Baby Ruth Villarama. And congratulations again on your award. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. That was Food Delivery Director Baby Ruth Villarama, and this is Regine Capato for Teka Teka News powered by Puma Podcast.